How to crush your meetings with motivated sellers. So you've already identified a great property for a fix and flip, maybe a rental property, and you've done your rehab estimates, you've calculated your ARV, you know what your purchase price needs to be, and now it's time to meet with that seller and close the deal. So after having done this many times, I've dialed in a process that I want to walk you through on how to do it. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is this meeting, if possible, should occur at their house. If they currently don't live in the house and it's a non-owner occupied type situation, it can be done over the phone and it can be done, but meeting in person is probably the best thing. And the first thing you've got to do, you've got to plan on spending about 2 hours. One of the things a lot of people don't realize is they try and make it about them and what they need rather than what the seller needs. So a couple of things that are just kind of foundational here. Number one, people do business with people they like. That is really important, and I find lots of investors forget this. People do business with people they like, which means you've got to build some trust. You've got to build a relationship of trust. You've got to find some common ground. You've got to get on the same page. That's the number one thing to do. When somebody walks in and just starts slinging numbers around and negotiating that type of stuff, it puts people off for the most part. Let's say that they're in the house. My recommendation is to walk in, plop down on the couch, and get to know them. Just like if you were meeting somebody for the first time. So tell me about you guys, and what do you do, and where'd you grow up, and where'd you go to school, and what happened, and just get to know them. What's really going on? So after I've spent 20 or 30 minutes kind of getting to know them, I'm not in a hurry at all. I've planned for 2 hours. Next thing I like to do is walk around the property with them. And I'd like them to give me a tour of that. Let's talk about the property and those things. When I do that, I'm walking around with my phone, taking pictures of everything. I'm taking pictures of the good and I'm taking pictures of the bad. So when we come to a problem, I like to stop and dwell on it and ask them about that. Tell me about the roof. How long has this leak been happening for? How much do you think it would cost to fix it? What do you think's going on here? What other problems have you had with the roof? How long's that been going on for? So I want to understand each one of these things. What happened here? You are not in a hurry, and you want to point these things out because they need to start realizing, my goodness, the house needs a lot more work than what I thought it did. You see, it's really hard for someone to say their baby's ugly, and so you want to be pointing some of those things out, making some notes on that, taking some pictures of it. Once you've toured the entire property, and that could take 30 minutes to an hour, the next thing that you're going to be doing is sitting down with them and saying, okay guys, I understand your situation a little, like what's ideal for you? Do you need to move out right away? Do you need a little bit of time? Do you need some money now and then get the rest of your money later? What's going on? Maybe a seller financing deal would be appropriate. I'm trying to understand what their needs are. I've had people that have said, you know what, we really just want to buy an RV and move on. And once we buy an RV, we're good. And so we've worked out some deals on that. We've worked out some deals where people needed some money to move, where we said, well, I'll close and give you some money and then I'll give you some time to move. Those are all strategies, but it really comes down to understanding their needs. What is going on with them? What do they need? What would make them happy? Because here's the thing. People are selling as a motivated seller. They are getting less money than they probably otherwise could, but what they're getting is speed and convenience and not having to deal with it and people coming through, not having to spend more money on repairs on the property. They're saying, you know what, I'd rather take a little bit less and not have to deal with all these other problems, and that's worth it to me. That's really what we're trying to come in as. It's really important that the seller realizes we're an investor. We've got to get a deal on this property. But in the same regards, we want to help them. And if we can avoid real estate commissions and we can avoid those types of costs, it can actually be a win-win for everybody. So then the next thing we've got to do once we've understood their needs, we ask them, what would work for you? How much would you like to have? What would be ideal situation for you? That's the first thing. Now, I can tell you most people when they ask this question, they keep talking. That's the worst thing to do. You want some awkward silence. You want a pregnant pause. You do not want to be the next person to talk. Say, what would be ideal for you? And listen. See what they say. Think about it. And they'll say, now, is that the really best you can do? You know, I'm an investor. I've got to get a good deal. I really would like to help you guys out. Is that the very best you can do? Then you're quiet again and you let them talk. Do not be the first person to talk and let them get it all out. And then I go back with another question saying, so you're saying if I could do this, whatever they're wanting, then you would move forward with me. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. And is that the very best that you can do? So I've asked it 3 times now, positioned a little bit differently. And then we get down to their very best. It's really important that I get the number from them rather than me offering a number, because they may be happy with a price that's lower than the price I was willing to pay for the property. So I really want to know what that price is before I offer anything. If that is a price I can make happen, I say, fantastic, let's move forward. If it's not a price, I can say, I think we're gonna have to do a little better than that. If I look at this is really where we need to be. And at that point, I'll actually offer a number that I can live with and I can do. Now, one thing that's important if I'm doing that is I want to make sure I understand how much they owe on the property so I can do a reverse amortization so that I can figure out how much is actually owed on that property. So I know that I'm doing a deal that makes sense for them and makes sense for me. I typically do that and know those numbers long before I actually go to the property, because I don't want to spend 2 hours at the property with something nobody even has the ability to sell me. Remember, it's equity and it's motivation. Those 2 things is really what makes a deal for me. And if they have those 2 things, I really can find a way to make a deal happen that's going to make everybody happy. I put together a video on the 10 commandments for managing a contractor during rehab, because that's kind of the next step here. Once you get that property under contract, you've worked with the sellers, you've signed the agreement like we've been talking about. Now you've got to start the rehab. You'll close and then you'll start the rehab. So I put together this video on the 10 commandments, why bad contractors are the #1 reason good deals fall apart, how to pick a great general contractor, how to practically guarantee they don't go over budget or over the deadline. You're gonna wanna check this video out and make it a very profitable day.